8-9 months. A.J. Brown doesn't play. The offense looked like the Super Bowl offense. And it's like, I like A.J. Brown. I love him. But is it a coincidence they were that good yesterday?
Well, they did play the Giants. I mean, you know, it's a rivalry game. The Giants the Giants had too many mental mistakes on defense. Like they let Saquon Barkley go for the first touchdown of the game. I think A.J. Brown is an incredible player and very important to the Phillies offense, to all their success. They didn't need him yesterday. They played outstanding without him yesterday, but they also rushed the ball for like almost 300 yards. Dallas Goedert is a weapon. He showed up big time. Again, you know, the Giants didn't do a great job of trying to stop him. And then other people stepped up, like late in the game, they're going all out blitz. Jalen Hurts is forced to throw the ball. He throws a beautiful pass to Dotson, who goes up and mosses somebody. Like, listen, this is a complete team. This is probably, a lot of people's favorite to be the Super Bowl representative for the NFC. I think this is a team that I believe in. I've believed in them for a long time. The drama, they seem to be used to it. There's something about the mental toughness of this team. But yes, I would agree. You don't want an energy vampire on the sidelines, and diva wide receivers can do that. In this case, I don't think A.J. Brown is that. I think his importance to the team, his value to the team is real.
Matt Hasselbeck is completely wrong here. Allow me to explain before you get mad. Most people do not have the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl. Are you kidding me? The Eagles lost like a game. Where they lose? It was either to the Giants or the Broncos. And ESPN was like, it's a safe bet to say that the Eagles aren't going to make the playoffs. Okay? That's literally, I remember. I was sitting in a waiting room, and it was on the most gigantic TV. And it was just like, a safe play is to bet that the Eagles aren't going to make the playoffs. And I'm just sitting there. I'm telling you, it was like on a couch, and the TV is so massive, and I had nowhere to go. And I was just like, what are we doing? And I was just like, don't react to it. I was like, am I going to make a clip about this when I get home? And I was like, no, just don't do it, man. Just don't even, you just can't. So I would not say that most people have the Eagles as the Super Bowl representative in the NFC. Everything else, Matt Hasselbeck said was spot on, and I obviously completely agree with him for the most part in terms of what the Eagles were able to get offensively and the completeness of this team, et cetera, et cetera. Not so much that it was like, and I don't think he was trying to credit the put the emphasis on the Giants not being good enough. And that's why the Eagles were able to do that. But there's going to be some layers of that because the Eagles are obviously fundamentally just a better team, right? Top to bottom. So you're always going to have some of that, come up when you're watching a game like that, right? Like, we're not going to pretend that the Giants are evenly matched to the Eagles and then the Eagles just played better, executed better. They're a better team, right? So it's to be expected to be able to get a dominating win like this. And yeah, I assumed. I obviously didn't watch this. I only watch the clips in real time with y'all for the most part, unless something like comes up ahead of time, and then I kind of know, I'm going to make a clip about this. But 99% of the time, I have no idea what I'm about to watch, and I assumed going into this, that Colin was going to be like, isn't the Eagles better without AJ? And I was like, I know there's no chance Matt Hasselbeck is about to say, yeah, for sure, Colin, the Eagles are better without AJ Brown. And I was just, and he said the right things. This constant emphasis, and I've been saying this as well, and I just, was fortunate to find someone else to be like, no, like, what are you guys talking about? This team, yes, it is a little bit of a coincidence that the Eagles were able to be elite and special without A.J. Brown. To imagine that if A.J. Brown was there, that they somehow wouldn't have also been elite and special and, just go to town for sure. I don't even know that, like, and this is what's so funny too, because Matt Hasselbeck has talked about this, and again, someone of his level quarterback, I think sometimes gets swept under the rug in terms of the perspective that they can bring. I see this a lot with like Dan Orlovsky as well, but he talked about this, that, in the beginning of the season when the Eagles were kind of struggling to get the targets to AJ and whatnot, and talked about the pressure that you feel as a quarterback to try to get in offensively. And he kind of talked about, like, Kevin Patullo, just, you need to have your a whole separate call sheet that's just like, for your guys, for your main guys of like, get this guy the ball, get AJ the ball, get Justin Jefferson the ball, get Jamar Chase the ball, right? You just have that, and you know that in any given moment you gotta dial that up. And so sometimes offenses, and quarterbacks for that matter, can kind of feel that pressure. And he's talked about like, you want to still be, you don't want to force it, but you still want to get your playmakers the ball here. And the reality is that like, I don't think that the Eagles or Jalen Hurts ever play with this feeling of pressure that they have to get AJ Brown the ball. I think they've proven that now. They've proven that. And so when their offense was feeling a little bit limited or just not as unleashed, it's not because AJ Brown's there and now they're forcing plays or forcing game plans that don't fit. If that was the case, then you absolutely undeniably could make the argument, hey, does this team flow more? Is it a little bit easier without AJ because you're not trying to satisfy him? And I don't think that's the way how these games have unfolded, right? It's not like Hurts was feeding Devontae and Dallas Goedert nonstop and AJ was just like, that's not how it was. It's not like Saquon Barkley just continued to just feed and AJ was getting it, or that they kept trying to now go to AJ, and because of that they were forcing plays, getting interceptions, getting 3 and outs. Saquon is now touching the ball less, Devontae is touching the ball less, Dallas is like, that's not what it was. So the whole addition by subtraction here doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. It actually makes like no sense whatsoever. And we talked about this yesterday about like the Eagles, like Matt Housebach just talked about, like the Eagles their intention is to win the Super Bowl. It's not beating the Giants. It's not beating the Vikings. It's not beating the Dallas Cowboys. It's beating the Rams. It's beating the Lions. It's beating a healthy Ravens. It's beating the Chiefs, the Bills, and right now the Colts, the Patriots. Who there's a couple of the new faces around the league right now. Right, like that's what it's about. That's what it's about, and that's why I always lean on the whole who do you play. Like I always consider who are you playing and how do you play against them, and it's not just wins and losses. Having a blowout dominant easy win against the Giants is not the same as losing a tough, gritty, physical, high quality game against again, the Bills, the Chiefs, whoever, whatever team you want to use as a placeholder. I put more stock in that and be like, hey, you lost, you came up short, but like you can clearly beat them. And that means you're at the same level. So if you were to play each other in the playoffs, you're right there. Just make the plays when you need to make them, and you win, and you win the Super Bowl. Surprise, surprise! That's what the Eagles did. So those types of games will always matter more to me. So figuring out who the Eagles are without AJ Brown when they go up against a team like the Giants. Now, if they had that type of performance, say against another top team, another elite team, then yeah, that would be a little thought provoking, right? And we don't get that kind of example where they play the Rams twice and they beat the Rams how they beat them the first time, and then now the next time AJ Brown's not there, and maybe it's even easier or maybe it's even worse, right? Like after that game, the reason why that also stands out to me, because after that game, Colin made a whole point to say that game was won by AJ Brown because he's just physically bigger and stronger than anyone on the Rams defense can cover. And that's unique to AJ. That's unique for the Eagles to have that with AJ going up against that defense, that any other team that they're going up against, their defense will be able to hold their own in a much stronger way, except for against the Philadelphia Eagles. So that's why it's like downplaying that impact. Like you think going up against the Kansas City Chiefs defense or the Broncos defense, as we saw, like you think having less is more in those situations. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And Jalen Hurts has already shown to be pretty balanced in his attack, which is the way to go. And yeah, it is up to AJ Brown to accept that and understand that. And yeah, I do think on a spectrum, AJ Brown is for sure a little bit of a diva, right? Like he definitely is. And I talked about that last year, and I wish he was less of that. But the reality is that the locker room is not necessarily behind him. And so I'm pretty confident that if the Eagles were to ever move on from AJ, in a weird way, like I'm sure Howie would really actually discuss with the coach staff and the locker, with like the main leaders of that team to be like, is this something that does need to go here, right? Like, is this actually a problem? And since this Eagles team have won, since they've had a tremendous amount of success, going to 2 Super Bowls in 3 years, and obviously winning a Super Bowl in spectacular fashion, beating the Kansas City Chiefs, this locker room, this roster, this coaching staff, like they're so much more resilient than pretty much any of these other teams except for maybe the Chiefs, right? They're probably at comparable levels of resiliency because they're the only 2 teams that have consistently been there, that have consistently competed at the highest levels. And it's not a surprise that they are both where they're at, and they've both had the levels of success that they've had. And so that is where you got to just trust the franchise at that point. And just like how the Chiefs one day did say, well, we're getting rid of Tyreek Hill, it could be on the table for the Philadelphia Eagles to do that one day with A.J. Brown. I just don't think that day is today, unless Howie Roseman is able to just get an absolute haul. And he's like, yeah, you know what? We might slightly sacrifice our ability to win this year, but we are going to set up now the next 3-4 years in dominant fashion. Like you would take that, right? You would trust that Jalen, Devontae, Dallas, et cetera, you would trust that because it just sets you up to just be special for even more years rather than just try to milk this immediate 1 to 2 year window as much as you can. So, but like, I don't know if that's available right now. And to me, it's not even necessarily worth talking, but since they keep trying to emphasize it, I figured I'd be pretty firm with my take and just kind of look at it from both sides. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about the Philadelphia Eagles and A.J. Brown? Did Philly find offensive rhythm without A.J. Brown? Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment, so whether you agree with me or disagree with me, either way, let's get in some discussions, let's get in some fights, but ultimately, let's just have some fun. Please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all generally feel connected to, something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.